Civilization has fundamentally changed, and Civ 7 can be a complicated beast. So, here are a suite of tips to help you master Civilization 7's key categories of change right from the word go. Civilization 7 changes the formula by first changing the very start of the game. As you select a leader, of course each with their own abilities, probably requiring a dedicated video to break them all down, it's important to also note that you're playing against these people and throughout the entire game. Whoever you choose, this is your leader, you're stuck with them. You'll also rank them up and get their own unlocks across multiple games, something important to keep in mind as you unlock these mementos for the most part. They're leader specific, however you can assign them to any leader as you go to play a future game. Something to keep in the back of your mind while you're also selecting a civilization. Now these are of course age specific. You'll play as 3 different civs throughout the course of a normal game. Again, the abilities and everything here are just so highly varied. To break them all down would simply take too long. Something else that's important to note as you just start your game is that worlds are generally a little bit smaller. They'll grow through the game. The default is actually small, and the map types are also somewhat limited. My recommendation here would be to play at what you're comfortable in. Quick speed, generally pretty good, maybe lower the difficulty for your first game. These are all fairly generic Civilization tips though. So let's focus in now on what makes Civilization 7 specifically different and how you can master it so that you can really put your best foot forward. Founding your first city works just like any other Civ game, but the yields, the location, what you're thinking about, not just with this city, but with all future towns, matters greatly. And it's why, for the first time ever, I believe that scouts are actually just a no-brainer. They were always very good, I concede, but this time around they feel more important than ever. Discoveries are powerful, and the world is very varied. Navigable rivers will play a key role in future ages, and resources like this salt here are massive. Let's talk about the cities and towns then. Let's delve in. This is what city growth looks like. Every time you build up enough excess food, your city will grow, expanding to a new tile. Initially, turning it into what we call a rural tile, maybe a farm here on this flat grassland, or a woodcutter to its left, a fishery out at sea. These tiles, these rural tiles, will instantly improve the resources that they have, as well as their natural yield, the food, production, etc. Therefore, you need food to grow to get more rural tiles. Food, of course, is king here, alongside production, which will impact the amount of time it takes to build buildings. These ones, like the granary and the saw pit, are ageless. That means that they'll carry their benefits through the ages. It also means we won't be able to replace them, for most buildings can be overbuilt in Civilization 7, except for ageless ones, and that makes them fairly permanent. So as you're building and expanding, consider that, as well as natural resources, natural features like rivers, and mountains too, coastline finally. Really, these are the key tiles that you want to be building toward and around, alongside any natural wonders you may find too. Those groupings are massive, and you'll see that as you start to expand, as you start to choose where to place a building. And this is where the urban side, not the rural, but the urban tiles gain another layer of complexity and interest here. As I'm expanding my city, I could build this urban tile, this building, over top of this woodcutter. It would replace the woodcutter and then allow me to expand out somewhere else. Or I could choose to just convert a blank tile within my city borders into an urban one, now working that tile and creating a building on top of it. It's not just that tile, but just as it was in Civilization 6, also what we build next to it, and that's where those mountains, resources, rivers, and coastlines are important too. The tiles, of course, feed adjacency bonuses that you can see, just like you can here as I'm hovering over a tile, choosing where to place the building. Any building that's not ageless can at least eventually be replaced, so it's slightly more forgiving perhaps than previous games. This time around, we can also usually place 2 buildings on one tile, and this forms what Civilization calls a quarter. Adding to that, you can also build unique quarters. A lot of civilizations will have 2 buildings, like the Roman Basilica and Temple of Jupiter. If you build both of these, I would note also Ageless Buildings, so they're not going anywhere and neither are their adjacency bonuses. On the same tile, build them both on the same tile to create that unique quarter. Don't build them on separate tiles. It'll be very frustrating as you move forward. The library and other buildings, though, don't worry so much about those. Try and get the best adjacency you can in line with their bonuses. They will eventually be replaced as you move through the tech tree. Of course, the tech tree will also unlock innate bonuses just for the tiles, a production on camps and woodcutters through animal husbandry, pottery and sailing, also offering, right from the word go, those early boosts to your tiles. So it's about the buildings you place and the technologies that you unlock. This is how you'll get the most out of your land. One final note here, of course, there's also a civics tree. This is the cultural technology tree, right? Build up your culture, unlock these. The unique civics, in my view, tend to be very good, unlocking your unique buildings quite often, as well as wonders and extra benefits. Finally here, you will have noticed the mastery options. Just a quick note on these. They don't tend to have extra buildings, except for one-off wonders, but they do provide some great benefits. So don't sleep on these mastery options as you're trying to build and construct your wonderful new cities and towns. Because of course, any new settlement that you build in Civilization 7, except for the very first one, won't actually start as a city, but rather a town. The collective word that we use for cities and towns is settlements. The towns specifically, though, also have a focus. In my view, it's generally best to keep the town growing, and then specialize. Once you have a few improvements down, you know what you want to get out of it. For these specializations often limit growth, or change the way that the town's yields are calculated. So take note of that before you go rushing in and upgrading, specializing every single town. One other thing that I like to do before I upgrade, before I perhaps convert it to a city, the option given, of course, to exchange gold to turn a town into a city, is also just generally expanding it out. As you build buildings with gold, they appear instantly and your borders expand. The way that you build affects the way that your city will grow. You won't be working all of the tiles within it necessarily. You're going to need more population to get more rural improvements, but you will be able to land grab. And the AI in this game is pretty hungry, pretty aggressive for land, which brings us through to combat and diplomacy. The commander units, like my unique Roman one here, are of course the big change. We've talked about this many times in the build up to the release of this game, hoovering up nearby units, marching them across the map, and earning promotions. The full depth and detail of all of these, again, could take its own hour-long video, but for what it's worth, the first assault promotion, and really any promotion that allows your commander to move more readily, and crucially to deploy the units and then attack with them, are fundamental. Otherwise, these things feel just a little bit slow to use. And it doesn't matter if they're at sea, in the sky, or on land, the three domains where your commanders will rule combat. The other part of the puzzle here is your actual relationships with these emojis up in the top right-hand side of your screen. They will fight you, and in my experience, they're very happy to go at you. It doesn't really matter too much even what the difficulty level is. Hover over them and you'll be able to see exactly why. If your relationship is not friendly, you can expect them to take action against you, to spy on you, to sabotage you, or to fight you. So maybe you might want to use some of your new influence yield, a new resource to Civilization 7, to try and appease them, to try and win them over. Treaties and endeavors, except for a denouncement, will always do this. Always. Even if you don't fully need the yield that it might be giving. Likewise, the opposite is true, of course. Denouncing them, stealing from them, and being caught. This will really ruffle their feathers. However, you need to save influence, for it's not just in carrying out treaties and endeavors in the relatively limited fashion that you can carry out those. You may also want to woo nearby independent people, eventually taking over their settlements for your own. And when war is declared, really you must support yourself. You want to get the war support in the positive, the net positive for you. This will reduce your opponent's happiness, so how happy their cities are, as well as their combat strength, their ability to fight back and defend. Speaking of defend, fortifications have changed quite a bit in Civilization 7 as well. You can build walls around any tile that's connected to the city center and already has walls, so they need to stretch out from the center. These tiles become fortified, meaning that when you engage in combat with an enemy, when you're at war, the enemy will need to destroy these fortifications, not just from walls, but maybe from special Civ unique districts, one-off wonders. Maybe you pick up a suzerain ship, you befriend an independent people, and they give you a special one. However you get the fortifications, these are very powerful. It will take much longer to break all fortified districts and then capture a city. And that adds a new layer to the strategy. So too does age progression. So let's move through to our final main chunk of the video. It's a big one. It's most of the stuff to do with the ages. Every age has these legacy paths. You can check them at any time. Goals from culture, military, science, and then finally here, economic goals, like assigning 20 resources to your settlements. As you progress these goals, you will speed up, literally speed up the course of an age, stripping it of extra turns and moving faster to the next one. You'll also unlock rewards, legacy, options, abilities that you'll be able to use in future ages, in the very next age, the exploration age. So, these milestones are massive. Absolutely ginormous, in fact. Their benefits are profound. They're also essentially building you up towards the victory mechanics, for in the final age, you'll build up legacies just like these. What you won't suffer in the final age, but you will in the first two, is a crisis. The crisis occurs towards the end of every age. You can speed through it if you want to advance the age progression by doing those things we just talked about, and you may want to do that. A crisis will require you to assign crisis policies. These are often, but not always, bad. The effects of a crisis will also change. There are a few different options in each age. Perhaps the most unforgiving one is this one you're seeing here, the revolt at the end of the age. You'll lose a city if you can't keep your happiness up. Though you might also gain a city. You might also welcome a new city into your empire. That tends to be what happens. It's exactly what happened here, and I got shafted. I should have focused on my happiness throughout this crisis. As the crisis intensifies, as you move toward the end of an age, you'll basically just blink your eyes and then it will be done. And the age will be done. You'll find this screen where you'll see your rankings, as well as your rewards, the legacy that you built, and how you compared to everybody else in the game. You want to be winning this, and you want to try and reach for as many legacies as possible, reaching down multiple paths, or indeed changing your strategy through the ages as you change your civilization, like I'm doing here, is not ill-advisable. It totally works. Speaking of changing civilizations, kind of one of the big changes in Civ 7, the decision is always going to be difficult. I'd recommend picking a unique unit or a unique building that you really like the look of. A yield that you're already pretty good at will be the greatest way to achieve your goals for the next age. I.e., if you're already making money and doing a lot of trade, then playing as Songhai might be great for you. If you're looking to lean into more of a warlike game around horses, then the Mongols will be your choice. Fundamentally, of course, it's pretty specific to how you're playing. Your leader will innately unlock the geographical choices. Spain is one of mine, so that's who I'm going to choose here. And the way that you've played, the things that you've done, where you've built your cities, may unlock other options for you as you move through. The options side really intensifies as you choose your rewards, these legacies. How well you did in the last age will ultimately determine which ones you can get, which ones are unlocked, and which ones just aren't even here. Because I was fairly militaristic, working toward achieving those goals, I get the fealty option, which expands the number of settlements I can have. However, there will always be generic options available. Attribute points for your leader, these are very strong, should not be slept on, and you can usually move your capital city for free as well. This, I've found, is often a good idea moving through to the exploration age, if you have a powerful coastal city that is not already your capital. Generally, slam your extra points into any non-specific benefits that you can pick up. Almost always these will be those attribute points, and then move through. For the next age, oh my goodness, It's actually pretty exciting. I believe they've done a good job at capturing the re-excitement that they were trying to build here. New legacy path options become available. Again, these are specific to each age. These goals that you're trying to achieve will continue to change. And they'll lean into the new game features and mechanics that Civilization opens up in the ages. In the modern age, it's usually things like flight and combat, and how you'll push these milestones to achieve a victory condition. In this age, though, the exploration age, to be honest, it's a lot more about making money and reaching distant lands. So technologies like cartography moving through to shipbuilding in this age's new technology tree are fundamentally important. And the significance of what you built last age in terms of your culture matters here too. The only policies you'll carry through are ones that you unlocked specifically because they were unique to your civilization. In this case, I can use my Roman policies, but no others. I'm going to need to unlock new ones in a new age. I'm also going to need to reconvert most of my towns into cities if I want them to be cities, if I want them to have access to the full suite of buildings, productions, all of that stuff. Generally, I'll try and keep to my settlement limit, right up at it, maybe slightly over it. And that limit will matter a lot in the exploration age. Here, sending my settlers out, taking care to avoid the rough sea, the deep ocean tiles as much as I can to try and find the new world. And spoiler alert, Civilization 7 doesn't really hide it that far away. It's usually pretty close, and it will usually have a lot of treasure resources, the special resource for this age that will help me complete my economic goals. Building cities, actually, will help me complete the scientific goal too, as yields matter a lot in this age to complete the scientific objective. You'll need a lot of technology, a lot of yield, and some very powerful and specialized tiles. For there is one other option to grow a city. You won't often face it until toward maybe the middle of the exploration age, early exploration age, and that's placing specialists on tiles. Specialists basically allow you to add to the yield of an existing improvement in building, rather than expanding out and building somewhere else. But topics like that are probably just a little bit deep and detailed for this video that is now already almost coming up to 20 minutes long. This was obviously a guide, not aimed necessarily at the bare bones basic beginner, but maybe a Civ fan, maybe you've played Civ before, or strategy games more broadly. There's plenty more to discuss, both at the advanced level, as well as at that really basic introductory level, and I'd like to try and do both. So, stay tuned for plenty more Civilization 7 where this came from. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.